Baldur's Gate 3 is the absolute pinnacle of RPG gameplay and innovation. And today I want to talk about why and how Larian Studios has taken the RPG genre to the top of the charts and hypnotizing all of us into hundreds and thousands of hours of Baldur's Gate 3 RPG bliss. Stick with me until the end, hit the like and subscribe, and let's talk about Baldur's Gate 3 and why it has pulled the RPG genre up into new heights, and no one in the industry should be turning their heads away. Baldur's Gate 3 brings RPG back to their roots, Dungeons & Dragons tabletop role-playing games, and then converts it into a video game form, and does the best job we've ever seen at translating it. The RPG genre was always about roleplay, feeling like you could become your character. And to really get immersed, you need to feel like you have options, you have tools, and Baldur's Gate 3 does the best job in making you feel like you could do anything you can imagine. And it's not just an illusion. Almost close to always, you really can find a way to do whatever plan you had devised. I found that my experience with playing Dungeons & Dragons tabletop has helped me solve issues I ran into in Baldur's Gate 3. The poor little gnome in the party couldn't make the jump, so I said, hey, maybe I can throw a rope down. No, I couldn't figure out how to do that. Okay, maybe I just can take the gnome and throw him to where I need him to be. Yep, that worked. And not only does Baldur's Gate 3 translate over tabletop really well, its UI and the delivery of all the systems feel really natural. Quick to understand, but complex enough that we'll be playing and experiencing Baldur's Gate 3 for many years into the future before we master them. It's also the use of ability checks or saving throws, where you actually roll a dice to decide the outcome. Are you successful or not? And then the built-in narrator or dungeon master for the campaign, if you will, plays out the scenario or the NPC reacts to it, and it just feels so freaking good. And as you're rolling, making decisions, the characters and the world is reacting to it, and even small little decisions that you have made that feel very inconsequential later come back to help or hinder you. And just like it would be in real life, you often don't understand the full scope of what is happening around you, so you make decisions based on the information you have, and the consequence oftentimes is different than you first thought. But it's always freaking cool. And that's what's the most impressive thing about Baldur's Gate 3 that it is accomplishing. Living with your decision and seeing the outcomes constantly grows your story, and it's satisfying no matter what direction it goes. Baldur's Gate 3 is the absolute epitome of storytelling because it feels like you are making the story just as much as it feels like you are experiencing the world around you. Literally everybody playing is already planning second, third, fourth playthroughs, because the more you play, the more you begin to understand what is happening, and the more that you know what you would have done if you would have known what you know now. And this continues like this throughout the entire story, which is huge because Baldur's Gate 3 is between 100 to 300 hours, depending on how you play. Your hours will absolutely melt away into oblivion while playing Baldur's Gate 3 as well, and the world around you will absolutely vanish as you get immersed in the deep character customization and class options, the multi-classing, the story, the combat, and the scope of the world. And all of this without mentioning that there are story plots everywhere. Every NPC seems to have some kind of backstory, their own events and things you can do to learn more or help or hinder them. You can get lost in the small details and end up finding out that this small little quest actually leads to something absolutely amazing. And it always does if you keep digging. The attention to detail on everything in the world is breathtaking. You might have an ability to talk to animals and you try it and it works, and it leads you to something you never saw or did before. Or talking to the dead to reanimate a corpse and learn about it, leading to even more content. As you are playing Baldur's Gate 3, you can't help but stop and say, I can't believe they packed this much detail and content into a single video game experience. Baldur's Gate 3 is the best RPG money can buy, and it's the first time in a very long time that the RPG genre has been shoved forward so far. And I actually pity other developers for having to live up to this standard. But every RPG will be judged on Baldur's Gate 3 from now on. It's the benchmark. It just is what it is. It's here. We are experiencing it. We can go back to it whenever we want. It's real. It exists. And now it's time to see who can live up to this monumental expectation. And let me be clear, I still love the traditional JRPG or CRPG like Pillars of Eternity or the Final Fantasy series, but Baldur's Gate 3 is on a brand new level of immersion, storytelling, character customization, and role-playing. The RPG genre has always wanted to be exactly what Baldur's Gate 3 actually is. There are still a couple of complaints I have for Baldur's Gate 3. Romancing is way too easy for one. I should be able to be friendly with my companions without them trying to get in my pants, I'm just saying. Although absolutely it is still the best multiplayer RPG experience I've ever had, the multiplayer could still use some work. I love it, but we should be able to switch who in the party is talking during the conversation, for example. But here's the deal. I've been playing Baldur's Gate 3 since the beginning of early access, and I can tell you, they will be updating and fixing things based on feedback, and I actually have confidence that even my little small complaints will be addressed at some point in the future. I actually trust Larian to do the right thing, as it is blatantly obvious that Baldur's Gate 3 is a fruit of their passionate labor. No microtransactions, no frills. Baldur's Gate 3 is the real deal. It just feels like Baldur's Gate 3 is the real RPG. It is the benchmark, and Larian has absolutely blood, sweat, and tears made the finest example of a living, breathing world come to life that you can jump into and carve out your own fantasy story in. Baldur's Gate 3 is simply the RPG I've always dreamed of, the one I always hoped that technology would one day be able to achieve, and beyond the scope of what may be possible in the world of artificial intelligence, for example, this is really as good as it freaking gets. I highly recommend everyone who loves RPGs to give Baldur's Gate 3 a full go. Dive in and make the character of your fantasy choice and play as you wish. Single player, multiplayer, both is actually recommended. And see what you think, and I bet you will agree. So sound off in the comments down below how you feel about Baldur's Gate 3 in your experience so far, or let me know if you plan on getting it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and do you agree that Baldur's Gate 3 is the new benchmark that all RPGs will be judged on moving forward? Please like and subscribe for more Baldur's Gate 3 content, and until next time, my friends, God bless and happy gaming. I want to give a very special thank you to the members of Napalm for your contributions month over month in keeping me full-time. You help me pay the bills so I can keep streaming and pumping out content, and I truly appreciate all of you. Thank you so much, and I think you might be interested in becoming a member of the channel. Please click the join button down below the video for more information and join our family. And I want to give an extremely big shout out to the Lords of Napalm: Bounty Code, Jared Woodhouse, Daimlos, Sparrow, Christopher Hensel, Random Rob, Zelic Lid, Rodney Mom, Vander, Gallerine Moonsong, What's the Takeaway, Trips, Bad Wolf Gaming, Richard Glass, Chrono Guru, Kobold, and William Long. Thank you for your highest tier membership.